Hi, I'm Georgios and I love quizzes. So what do Facebook, Equifax, and Uber all have in common? Apart from containing an even number of vowels, it's the recent data scandals.
Oh.
So, more than 150 million records were breached by Equifax. And these are records of people like you and me. More than 60% of companies have already been breached. So it's no longer a question of whether a breach will occur, but rather what the cost of this breach will be. Encryption is the most effective measure in mitigating this risk. So that's why we started Calypso. Calypso is the first never-decrypt cloud database solution. So the data remains encrypted at rest, in transit, and in memory at the database storage. While encrypted, one is able to search through the data, fetch them back to the application in a private way, and only there the data gets decrypted. So we are much more than encryption. We are a private search engine on top of encrypted data. The key never gets revealed, and no application changes are required. Imagine you have your gold mine of data in a cave. Alibaba finds the secret passphrase to it. Sesame open, he says. He walks in, but what he finds is just coal, hiding this gold of data. Because Calypso actually conceals the data against any database attack. This is a use case we're going to witness now in our demo. It's a use case we're working together with one of the top US banks. They are pulling together IoT data onto the cloud, and they want to be able to run analytics in a secure way. Switch to demo. So here we're seeing IoT data on fraudulent activity. First, we're going to see how any unauthorized user with root access to the storage can view this data. Everything you will see here appears in plain, and these are sensitive data, customer transactional data. Now, moving to Calypso, our Docker intercepts the data stream and encrypts the data in real time before storing it. So any unauthorized user, and this is any hacker, any system admin, and a cloud provider, can view nothing. It's just rubbish that they can see. But also, on top of this encrypted data, and while they are encrypted, someone can run SQL queries. So a data analyst who wants to figure out what is the average spend per category on these fraudulent activities. You can see here, for example, it's actually travel. And very interestingly, because we fired a query, the data set got dynamically re-encrypted. So if we go back, you can see here the first 3 digits. No, sorry. We have to go back to the demo. Thank you. The first 3 letters is LQ5. Now, let's refresh it. And we will see that this record got dynamically re-encrypted. Now it's J7T. Switch to presentation, please. So the question is, how do we do it? At the low level, we use established cryptographic schemes such as AES. And on top of it, for the first time, we combine cryptography, so oblivious RAM, with differential privacy in order to ensure an efficient and secure indexing of these records. This is a proprietary technology that my co-founder developed at Harvard. He's also Georgios, so it's one of the most common names in Greece. But luckily enough, we didn't join forces because of the name. My background is engineering from Cambridge, and I served as the head of the real-time big data analytics portfolio for Barclays. During my time there, I wanted to move our product to the cloud, but quickly realized that we couldn't find a solution that would make our compliance teams happy. If you look at the existing environment, solutions like Oracle's transparent encryption offer very high level of usability, but reveal too much information. On the other end, Microsoft's Always Encrypted or Unveil, they offer solid security, but at the same time, they don't support a lot of queries and they have lower speeds. So Calypso is the first one to offer this true security with orders of magnitude higher speeds. This is a global market that's projected to reach $1.6 billion by 2022. Currently, we're working with direct engagements with financial services, medium-sized cloud-native companies, and also database providers as channel partners. We are pre-revenue, just a second, yeah. We're pre-revenue. We have already finished an evaluation with a MariaDB consulting firm. We have announced a pilot with the National Bank of Greece, launching early 2019. And of course, we're raising our next round within Q2 2019. Thousands of years ago, there was Calypso, a Greek semi-goddess whose name meant she who keeps things secret. Today, we're here to pass her superpowers onto you in order to help you differentiate your products for your clients based on true security. Thank you very much.
Judges.
Are you guys open source?
No, we're not open source.
And in this day and age, it feels harder for a database, given how crowded the market is, to not be open source. How do you think about go-to-market and distribution?
That's a great question. So at the low level, we only use protocols that are open source. And our components are also components that have been tested throughout the years and through decades, right? So the proprietary bit is the way we combine these components together, specifically the way we combine oblivious RAM with differential privacy in order to make it high speed and in order to hide particular leakage channels.
So firstly, awesome presentation, and it's not easy to make encryption sound really like dynamic and, and fun, so really well done. To build on that, can you talk a little bit more about the initial use cases and then go to market hand in hand with that? So it sounds like you work with a few banks. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that vertical and how you're going to build a sales force to go attack that vertical if you are.
That's a very good question. So starting from the use case, I'll expand a little bit on the demo that we gave. So this is a use case where this particular US bank is pulling together locally IoT data with sensitive information in that. And they want to stream it all to a particular cloud provider and a storage server there in order to then derive analytics out of it. So what happens in this use case, we intercept that within their runtime environment, and we make sure that the data is secured at rest and in transit, as is for all requirements within the industry, but also in memory. And the extra advantage we give is that while the data is encrypted within the storage memory and the storage itself, you're able to run directly analytics on top of it, so SQL queries, without pushing all of that to another staging environment. Now, obviously, you heard about a couple of cases that we're working with banks. I can expand later on in the other case if we want to. Now, on your point, it can take long to go through a cycle with banks. That's why we're working with smaller providers as well to get faster feedback. So with this MariaDB expert firm, so we have worked together with them with the staging environment to address some particular cases they wanted, and also with a B2B e-commerce web platform. So these are smaller providers that can give us faster feedback while targeting and working together with these larger banking players.
Super, thank you.
What is really unique about our technology?
I'll pass on to you.
Yeah, sure. So before, it was not possible to have a searchability on top of encrypted data without revealing too much. And this is what we were researching. We saw that no solution was unbreakable. There was always a way to break and reconstruct information. Then we saw that if we combine, for the first time, privacy techniques with cryptography, then we can hide all these leakage channels and all this information that is leaked and create a system that can have searchability and encryption.
So aside from a direct speed benefit, which seems like you're leaning heavily on, so versus like always encrypted or one of the other major players out there, what applications does this enable that weren't able to be encrypted before? So what additional layers of security can you add to either existing or new applications?
Absolutely. So today, all applications can get encrypted in some way. So the question there is at which level this information is encrypted, because even talking to banks, they don't fully appreciate the spectrum of attacks there. So right now you can get, for example, at-rest encryption, and we showed how the data looks within the memory. So everything is revealed there in reality whenever someone gets root access over there. Now, you're mentioning also particular players, like smaller niche players that do in-memory encryption. So in our view and what we're seeing in the market, a lot of these use cases include, for example, sensitive transactions, payment data, sensitive defense data, where you want to have this very high level of security. Now, one interesting bit, though, is that while you encrypt in memory, it can be really slow. So all the other players we saw there, and that addresses your point, Nico, as well, your previous, it's also, the differentiator is also secure, it's also the speed over here. So we are orders of magnitude faster than any other startup that is out there doing in-memory encryption. And this is the core bit around our IP, and which we have applied for a global patent. So it's the speed at which you can do this in-memory encryption.
What is your biggest challenge, or what do you anticipate to become your biggest challenge? Is it technological challenges, or is it going to market? Is it convincing your customers? What do you think it will be? What is it right now?
I think this is exactly one of the challenges, and it came out from comments as well in terms of encryption, right? How do you make it sexy? So a lot of times, decision makers in organizations don't have the level of sophistication when it comes to the encryption field. So we have to go through this process, identify always the right champion, someone who understands the mechanics, and then be very mindful in how we progress to the decision maker there. So it is about the fact that it's a little bit of a niche, I would say, area, getting people to understand exactly what we do, but also keep the big picture in the page and in the conversation.
So if I'm a data analyst, I can run analytics by running a SQL query. What if I'm a data scientist and I need to build a machine learning model? Can I still do that with data in your database?
Sure. This is, of course, possible. Where our technology can flourish the most is when the queries they're very highly selective. So if you want a small portion of the data to be retrieved in order to run your analytics or your machine learning algorithms, then our solution is the go-to solution for that.
Less running it, building the model, where I need to look at the whole data set.
The whole data set, yeah. Then in that case, our solution wouldn't be the ideal. It would be more to have, the perfect solution would be to just have an encrypted backup, and then you can just retrieve the whole thing, decrypt it, and run your analytics there.
So how can you guys make this be a huge business so that all of us Greeks will be proud of you?
So we have particular plans right now. We're working on integrations with big data platforms. We already have integrations with MariaDB, MySQL, so that we have this transparent layer. But obviously, we see the future in big data, in a lot of cases around artificial intelligence, where part of the data set is required. So this is what right now we're working on. But that's not the only thing. So we have already integrated with SGX, which is the secure enclave offered by Intel. It's one of the latest technologies out there. And by doing it, we actually not only make it the entire, we don't only cover the problems that Intel faces right now with leaked channels, but make the entire enclave secure. Our technology is not just encryption. So we are working on adding also smart ways to be able to identify if an authorized user actually has a weird activity, because we capture all of the queries. And at the same time, we're building on sharing information, so secret sharing, being able to have two organizations communicate privately with each other. So these are things in our roadmap. They will be coming as we're progressing.
So it sounds like tech talent is key for you. Do you have a good pipeline of developers and encryption experts that you want to hire, and a plan for how to maintain and attract good tech talent?
We do, yeah. So we're based out of Montreal. So there is no shortage in great talent there. One of our senior engineers joined us from India. He has 20 years of experience in Symantec, so he moved with his family to join us. We already have some new people lined up. Our technical advisor is actually the inventor of differential privacy, so really high stature advisors and people who are tagging together with us in order to build this future.
Deployment is typically tricky for this type of solution. How do you deploy?
So we deployed using a Docker because we wanted to be an easy drag and drop approach. There are two modes of deployment. One is for new applications, so it's a native API. The second one is the transparent layer I just mentioned, which is connecting to any ODBC and JDBC drivers. So effectively, if you're using an application that connect through these drivers, or you're using an application that utilizes MariaDB or MySQL, we already have a transparent layer that is very seamless there.
Okay, give it up for Calypso.
Well done.
Our